about 30 years ago, when I was about 17, 18 years old, I went to seminary school. I was a minister in my church. I would pray and I would encourage people, and I got up to do my first sermon. Didn't go over so well. I got up there and thought I was preaching, and the pastor comes behind me. He said, well, if God called you, he would qualify you, and I don't think he will be qualified. So I was very, very happy. I went home and prayed. I said, God, what is going on? He said, well, that's not where you're going to minister. You're not going to do that. You won't be in the pulpit. I said, oh, thank God. Because, you know, you look at people like Pastor Joel, if you step on his foot, he going to pray for you. Step on mine, I'm going to punch you. You mess around and hit this bunion, you really going to be in trouble. But I'm grateful for the opportunity of understanding what I was supposed to do. God, and when I prayed, God showed me my ministry would come through movies and television. And listen, just because I'm a Christian who makes movies, don't think that all my movies are going to be Christian. Sometimes they'll be sci-fi, sometimes they'll be rated R. They'll be all over the place because I'm an artist. I want to tell all kinds of stories. But what is important to me is that as I'm telling stories, that there is a message of hope that people take with them. So if you guys can understand that and appreciate that with me, I'm grateful for it. We talk about this moment where I was trying to get the career off the ground, and all of a sudden it started taking off. And I was in demand everywhere. We were selling out. We couldn't add any more seats to the theater. I was doing 350, 60, 70 shows a year. Just wouldn't stop. Just performance after performance after performance. And something was happening. You ever find yourself in a moment where everything is going great, and then all of a sudden you get anxiety about something? I found myself having great anxiety about being able to fly. I was a very, very nervous flyer, you know, coming from a kid who had nothing, who had never been on a plane, to 20-something years old, put me on my first plane, and I didn't understand it. I was scared to death. I get on the plane with my oil. I had a friend named Nita. She gave me oil, just oil. She would just pray over it, and I had olive oil all over myself, just anointing the door as I'm going in, anointing every seat. People coming behind me going, what is this all over the place? Get to my seat, we take off. Flight attendant come on and say the stuff they say. I didn't hear none of it. I was just holding on, holding on, holding on. We take off, I'm white knuckled. You have not seen white knuckles until you see a black man with white knuckles holding on to something. So there I was, in demand, but afraid to fly. Then the horror of 9/11 happened, and I stopped flying altogether. I said I can't do it anymore. I started taking my bus everywhere. So I was on the bus, and my promoters and the people, my business folk were like, Tyler, my agent, like, what do you mean? You're coming to California on a bus? Yeah. How long does that take? I don't know, 4 days. You know how much time you're wasting? You don't want to get on a plane and just come? No, I can't do it. So finally, one day I was running in the park. I said, God, I got to do something. I'm getting all this demand, and this is hindering the blessing that you've given me. It's hindering me because I'm afraid to fly. So what I did was, I'm running in the park one day and I'm exercising, and I see this little plane in the air, and it's being tossed around, and I immediately start praying for the people on the plane. I said, Lord, have mercy, help them, Lord, all that turbulence, help them. Jesus, Shabbat, oh, she's Shabbat, Jesus. You know it's bad when you call Jesus and Shabbat at the same time. And then the plane gets lower and lower, and then all of a sudden it comes down and lands. I realize it's a toy. There's a man flying a remote control airplane in the park. And I said, you know what? I'm going to go buy one of those. Maybe that's what I need to be all right. So I go to the hobby store, and I said, okay, let me have one of these. I don't read the instructions. I don't do any of that. Just like a man, just take it home, take it out of the box, take off. Boom, crash, 2 seconds. Did nothing to help me. Went back the next day, bought another one. Boom, same thing. About the 4th or 5th time I went, the old guy that worked there, he said, son, you got more money than sense. He said, come here, sit on this simulator, let me show you how this works. And he started explaining to me how an airplane works, how the wings have lift in the airfoil, and how there's an aileron that goes right and left, and there's an elevator that goes up and down to make the plane go up and down. Then there's yawing and all this stuff. And as I was learning, I got fascinated. So I bought it and started flying, and I was like, yeah, I got it now, I got it. I'm gonna be able to fly. So I started flying again. Then I said, you know what, I'm gonna get my pilot's license. So one day I'm walking into an airport and I see this little plane. It looks like a little Volkswagen with wings. It's called a Cirrus. and they were explaining to me what's great about the series is that if you get in trouble, there's a parachute. You pull a handle inside, a rocket shoots out in a parachute. It lets the whole plane come to the ground. I said, yep, that's the one I want. That's the one I'm gonna fly on right there. So I called the salesman and we go up. He takes me up, and I've never been in a plane this small. He took me up early in the morning. The air was smooth, wonderful, it was great. We're taking off. I was like, wow, this is really nice. He said, you want to try the yoke? I'm like, sure. No white knuckles. I'm just taking the yoke. Plane's moving from left to right. I was like, okay, I'll buy it. Called him next day. I said, you know what? Let's go up again just so I'm sure and comfortable. He said, okay, well, I only have a slot in the afternoon. So we go up in noon. Now, if you know anything about flying, the middle of the day in the heat and the thermals is not very comfortable. So we take off and we're in the heat and thermals and the plane is bouncing around. I mean bouncing. A little plane. And I am having a fit. I'm like, we're gonna have to land. He's like, no, just stay. I'm like, nope, land, Shaba, I can't do it. Land. I need my feet on land. He said, hold on just a minute. Air traffic control comes over in our headset and the lady says, 378 Golf Lima, climb and maintain 6,500 feet. So he pushes the throttle, hit the elevator, plane goes up. We go up. And we break through this layer where all of this turbulence was happening. Then all of a sudden, we got to a place where everything was smooth. All because somebody said, climb and maintain. Climb and maintain. Climb and maintain. If you don't remember anything else I said today, remember climb and maintain. If it's turbulent and there's trouble, go higher. Don't sit there. If the devil is breathing down your neck, he's right where he's supposed to be. Because the Bible says you ought to say, get thee behind me, Satan. But if you want him to flee, just submit to God and resist him, and he's got to flee. I've never seen anybody in the presence of God worshiping and praising, and the devil was able to stay. If you want him to flee, you got to praise and worship. You got to pray and worship. You got to climb and maintain. You got to get into the word of God. And here's how I know that it's going to be all right. The first 5 words of this text simply says, and it came to pass. Which means whatever you're going through did not come to stay. You're going to be all right. Abraham told his servants, stay here. This is the thing that blew my mind. Stay here. And we're going to go up and worship. But there's a little part of the verse where he says, and we will return to you. Well, Abraham, if you're going up to sacrifice your son, how do you know you're coming back with your son? When you have that kind of trust and that kind of faith in God, I don't care what it looks like, it's going to be all right. And Abraham turned and he named the place Jehovah Jireh, meaning God will provide. So the very thing you're worried about, don't worry about it because God will provide. But Tyler, you don't understand. It's been difficult. It's been hard. God will provide. But Tyler, you don't understand. I love my wife and my husband. This has been really difficult, but you don't understand. God will provide. Just climb and maintain. Just pray and worship. Just climb and maintain. And if I can leave you with anything, I want to leave you with this. Hear me clearly when I say this. There are people who come in your life sometimes to be there for a season. They weren't meant to be there always. Sometimes we find ourselves hooked up with people that we think are there for a lifetime, but they were only supposed to be there for a season. There are people who come in your life like boosters for a rocket. If you ever watch a rocket go into space, the boosters fall off when it reaches a certain altitude. Some people are not equipped to handle the altitudes that you're going to. So don't be afraid when they fall off. They're not bad people. They just couldn't go where you're going. It was a very, very difficult time. I was a child that was born to 2 wounded parents, and they were wounded children themselves. My mother was 17 and my father was about 19 when they got married. And I came along when she was 24 years old. And there was a lot of pain in the house. There were a lot of arguments. He was very physically abusive and verbally abusive to the both of us. It was really a difficult and very hard time, especially for a man child. I don't know what it's like for a little girl, but I'm sure it's just as painful. But for a boy child, a man child, to watch his mother being beaten and belittled, it was really, really hard. So I went under the house and I built this little, put some wood up in between some of the pillars and built this little safe place for me. And I painted it robin egg blue. I had found some paint somewhere, painted it blue, and I would sit in this room and I would let my imagination take me to other places. I would just be somewhere running through grass and trees while I'm listening to all of the pain and all of the heartache up above me in the floorboards. So it was a very difficult time. But the beauty in that moment, and I say this to people all the time, is that I know that all things work together for your good. When I am writing a script or a movie, or writing the have and have-nots, or if Loving You is Wrong, or writing any of these shows or movies, in my imagination, I go to a place where I'm in that world. And that was formed and born inside of all that pain. So the little boy's imagination is where the man goes now to feed his dreams. So it's a beautiful thing when you know that all things are going to work together for your good. After watching the Oprah Winfrey show, she said it was cathartic to write things down. Now, I didn't know what cathartic meant, so I had to go find a dictionary. So I'm saying in high school, I went and found a dictionary and I started writing things down in this journal, and I was using different characters' names because if someone found it, I didn't want them to know that I had been through the things that I was talking about. I was talking about adult survivors of child abuse at the time. So in 1993 or so, I moved to Atlanta. I moved in 92. In 93, I decided to put the play up, worked, saved money, my tax returns from H&R Block, did everything I could to put this show up. And I spent all my money. It was a 200-seat theater. I thought we would do all of these different shows over the weekend and 1,200 people would show up, and only 30 did. So I lost everything I had, my car payment, everything was tied up in it. And it was a very, very difficult time because I know I felt led to do this show about adult survivors of child abuse who had forgiven their abusers. Out of the 30 people, and I knew every one of them in the room, there was somebody said, this really touched me and I want to invest. That's how you know when God is doing something for you, because he'll put you on a path, and just when you think you're at the end, somebody or someone will show up and say, hey, here's another opportunity over here. So from about 93, 94, 95, 96, 97, we did this play once a year everywhere in these little small towns outside of Atlanta, and they never worked. They never worked. Every time I'd go, something would happen. I'd go get a job, and I'd go, after I'd work on the job for a couple of weeks, I'd get a call saying, hey, Tyler, we want to try the play somewhere else. And I go to my boss and I say, listen, I need 2 weeks off to go do this play. He's like, man, you just been working here 2 weeks. How do you think you can get 2 weeks off? And I go back to my desk and I sit and I pray and I was like, okay, God, I know I just got this job. I know I just did the play, it didn't work. I got another opportunity here. If this is you telling me, make it plain, what should I do? And I hear this voice say, quit. So there I was, stepping out on faith, leaving a job that I knew that this money was gonna come in from week to week to go out and do this play because I heard the voice of God. So I remember every time I'd go out to do the show, it wouldn't work, it wasn't successful. And I'm like, God, I know you told me to do this. And when I'd pray, I'd hear nothing. That same voice that said, quit, I heard nothing, which was a very difficult time for me, very difficult. And I remember the time that you're talking about was in Spartanburg, South Carolina. I had gotten another job because I had more jobs. Man, I had about 20 jobs during this time. I'd gotten another job, asked the boss, he said no. I heard the voice, quit. I go out, do the show, and I'm driving there, and there's a hurricane headed toward Spartanburg. Hurricane. I'm like, God, I know you control the wind and the waves, but you told me to quit, and now nobody's gonna show up. So I lost everything. Homeless, sleeping in my car, following God. When you follow God, sometimes things get tough, they get tight. But if you keep pushing, just on the other side of when you think it's the darkest, something miraculous will happen that will change your life. Something will open up that will blow your mind. So it was 1998, and I got an opportunity to do the show again, and it was at the House of Blues. And I was like, I don't know, I'm done. I'm gonna do like my mother said. My mother, who loved me dearly, loved me dearly. So we were sitting in the house and she was saying, listen, I'm tired of this. I'm tired of you doing these plays. Just stop it, just stop it. I'm tired of you crying about it. And the woman loved me more than anything. She said, you know what, just give it up. Just go get your job working at the phone company. You're never gonna make it with these plays. Just go get a job at the phone company. I was sitting there in tears when she was saying it to me. She turned around and she saw me because I was sitting behind her on the sofa, and the blood drained from her face. And she said, baby, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. I didn't know how important this was for you. But what I want you to understand is that I don't care how many people love you and encourage you, or the ones that try to tear you down or destroy you. When God has a dream for you, it is your dream. Your dream. Your dream. And there are people who love you who will think that they're saying the right things to you to try to protect you. Or there are people that have been in your lives and watched you grow up, and they don't know what God has put down inside of you because they think they're too familiar with you. But what you have to understand is when God has something for you, you have to go for it fully. So that's what I did. I did the show, and I walk in, and I'm mad, and I'm angry, because all those years, those 7 years of me trying to get this play up, nothing was happening. God would tell me to quit, then he'd get me out there, and he'd leave me. You'd leave me out here by myself. God, where are you? You wouldn't even talk to me during these dark times. So I was mad. I was done. I go and I do the show, and I'm complaining all the way. I'm there putting on my makeup, getting ready to play the old man Joe, and I got an attitude. I'm just mad. I'm upset. I'm like, I don't want to do this. And I hear that voice, that one that told me to quit, say, shut up. And he said, get up and look out the window. I got up and looked out of this little dusty window, and there was a line around the corner trying to get in the building. And the place sold out over and over and over again. And I said, God, where were you in all those times? He said, I was proving you to see that you would honor this, that you would do the right thing with it. Sometimes when you're not hearing from God, God is trying to see what you're going to do in the situation that you're in. And it turned out to be an incredible moment that has taken me from that sold out house all the way into every show that we've done. It's been incredible. It's been miraculous. It's been nothing but God. And I'm grateful. From the time when I started doing these shows to the time when they started to take off, what broke in the moment? Well, here I was with this script about adult survivors of child abuse whose parents had abused them. And the characters in the show that I had written from my own mind had forgiven their abusers, but I hadn't forgiven my father. So one day we were on the phone before the show sold out, before everything changed. We were on the phone, and I got a chance to just say everything that was on my mind, because I wasn't the little boy anymore. I was a 6'6" man, and I wasn't afraid. And I started saying everything that I needed to say to him. And the things that came out of my mouth blew my mind. But at the end of it, what I heard was, I forgive you. I said, I forgive you to him. And something shifted in me. Something shifted. Let me tell you something. Forgiveness is so incredibly powerful. Forgiveness is not for the other person, it is for you. There are people living their lives who've done you wrong. They are happy walking down the street, not even thinking about you, but there you are holding on to unforgiveness. When I forgave this man, I found myself I was lost for a second, because my entire fuel was based on the negativity of not forgiving him. But once I forgave him, I had to find a way to find another source of fuel. So the negativity and all the darkness that I'd been through was the source. Now I needed a more positive source. Now I needed a good source, a pure source. It's like taking a car that runs on diesel and putting regular gasoline in it. And then all of a sudden you say drive, and something's gonna go wrong. So you have to rework all the components inside of your mind to be able to understand how to function in positivity. So that shift for me was so incredible. Forgiveness did all of that for me. And the minute I did that, the minute I started to function and doing the right thing and being positive, I went from nobody coming to the show to not having enough seats for the people to get into the places. I was, maybe about 18 years ago, I bought this house, and I kept getting these insane water bills. The water bills were just insane. Like, why are these water bills so crazy? I'm a single man living in this house. Anyway, my neighbor told me I needed to dig a well. So I called this guy over to come, an engineer. He comes out, and we're walking the yard, and he's putting out all of these orange flags as to all these places he thinks that we could find water. As he's digging one, I said, okay, go ahead. So as he starts digging this one well, didn't hit anything. And I was like, wait a minute, you just dug this deep, and I still have to pay you even though you didn't hit water? He's like, that's how it goes. I'm like, okay, fine. So then he goes on to the next one. Little flag, he's digging, never hits water. He goes to the next one. Never hits water, and I keep having to pay these bills, and I got so frustrated, I said, never mind, I'll just keep paying the water bill, because I'm not gonna do this. A few months passed, I still get these crazy water bills, so what I decided to do was call him back. So he comes back out, I said, you dig right here, this well, and you dig, and you don't stop until you hit water. So he starts digging. He gets down to about 800 feet, he said, we haven't hit water, this is pretty deep. I said, you keep going. Gets down a little deeper, still has not hit water. I was like, you keep going, you keep going. He said, okay, we're gonna take the night off, we're over 1,000 feet deep, we'll be back in the morning. That night I thought about it, I said, you know what, I'm just wasting money, I'm not gonna do it. As soon as he gets in the morning, I'm gonna tell him to stop digging. That morning he comes out, he starts the machine, I'm on my way down to him, the machine starts. He was 4 inches away from the water that I needed. Why am I telling you all this? Why am I talking about digging for water? In this world, we're all digging wells. In our lives, we're digging wells. We're digging wells in relationships where we put all this time and effort and energy, and sometimes it doesn't give us what we need. We put all our time and effort and energy in our dreams and our business, and it doesn't give us what we need or what we were after. But if you just keep digging, my God, if you could just hear me right now, just keep digging. You may be 4 inches away from every gift and every blessing that you've ever wanted in your life. Had I given up when I was homeless, when I was sleeping in my car, when I was hungry, had I given up these people that you see on this screen right now would not be a part of my dream. There are people who are tied into your dream and your destiny, and you are worthy of getting to your goal. Keep digging. Don't stop. And let me tell you something, like I tell everyone here, listen to me, when you get there, when you get to that water and you see it's coming and you know you have what you need, this is what I want you to always remember. Make sure that everybody you run into meets you at your worth. If I went through this and I made it to a higher level, even though I feel like there's higher for me to go, if I made it, you can too. What is your higher? What is your higher in your life? What is the next step in love and finances and family and friendships and whatever? What is that for you? Whatever that is for you, reach for that. Pray for that, strive for that, fast for that, ask God for that. Don't stop pushing until you get to that. That's what I want people walking away with, that kind of encouragement. It is so important that you encourage yourself, because in this day and time, in this day of social media, in this day where you are bombarded with negativity constantly, every minute, every second, no matter, you don't even have to look for it, it'll find you. And you carry it on your person. Sometimes it's in a pocket close to your heart.
Yeah.
You pull your phone out and there it is, close to your heart. You have got to encourage yourself and protect yourself from all the negativity, because if you let all of that in, it's very hard to find yourself worthy, find yourself believing and knowing that you can.
So I want to talk to you about intention today. What is your intention in your career? Why did you choose it? What is your purpose? Because let me tell you, whatever you set your intention as, that is where you will land. You know, once I changed my intention, once it became about, you're going to hear that word a lot, intention. Once it became about going out on the road with my plays to share what I had learned about life, about faith and about God and about forgiveness. Once I did that, everything that I touched seemed to see major success. My intention was to use what I had learned in life, to use my gifts, my writing and everything within me to lift people, to motivate them, to make them laugh, to use the laughter as an anesthetic so that I could talk about things that were plaguing our community that nobody wanted to talk about. Things like domestic violence and molestation and rape and AIDS and HIV, getting over heartbreak, getting over things that tried to take us out. To talk about someone that no one wanted to talk about in this politically correct society, and that is the name of Jesus. You see, to me, my work is a how-to manual for the average person, for people like me when I was growing up, who couldn't afford therapy, people who couldn't afford to take time off from work while they figured things out, for people who couldn't get in their car and go to the country club and play a round of golf and work things out in their head. It was for people like the people that raised me. People that I'm not ashamed to own, like many of us do once we get a few letters behind our name. When my intention changed so that everything in my life, I began to live in purpose and live on purpose. I never thought about money or success again, but it kept coming my way. So much so that I was playing arenas, even until this day, 20, 30,000 people come into the arenas over a weekend, packing the place just to see my live plays. Then on to incredible success in film with over about 15 movies grossing over $1 billion. Then on to television, where I provided jobs and made more millionaires than all the studios combined in a 10-year period when blacks were absent from television and the film. I helped people like Idris Elba by giving him his first movie. I worked with Kerry Washington before Scandal. and Taraji P. Henson before Empire, with Viola Davis before How to Get Away with Murder, and Miss Cicely Tyson, the legendary Cicely Tyson. She said that I helped revitalize her career. And there are many more. Nothing changed in what I was doing other than my intention. So today I want to challenge you to know your intention as to why you do what you do. And I promise you, if your intention is right, you will be successful. But let me warn you what will happen when you're successful, because I don't want you to get out there and get caught off guard. At first, you're going to be celebrated. But when your success surpasses what your peers expect of you, then you will become a target. So now that you have set your intention, now that you have your foundation, let's talk about how to stay on course when the attacks come. And I assure you, they will come for you just as they did for me. When my attack started, I was shocked because I was so busy looking outside for the enemy to come and tear me down, I didn't even realize that the enemy was standing right in my own backyard. You see, we as black people, we have come through so much and we've endured so much that a lot of us, not all of us, but a lot of us still bear the scars of our ancestors. We still feel that if one of us is up, then that means that no one else can be too. So in order for me to be up and get ahead, then I can't celebrate you, I have to tear you down. That's the mentality that we have sometimes. That stems from a time in our history that there was only allowed one person of color to be successful at a time. I'll give you an example for Hollywood. When Hattie McDaniel was successful, there couldn't be another. When Dorothy Dandridge was successful, there couldn't be another. When Sammy Davis was successful, you know what I'm saying. You get the picture here. So expect some attacks. It's all a part of it. But remember this, a hunter only shoots at a deer he can see. If you ain't being seen, you ain't doing nothing. Why am I telling you this? Number one, so that you know how to stay on course. Keep your intention no matter what pressures come your way. And also, I'm telling you this because it's time that we stop running from where we come from to look for someone else to approve us. I don't know why we run out to someone else looking for validation. I want to tell you something. We are enough. You are enough. Your gift is enough. Live in your truth. Share your gifts. Don't worry about who gets it. If your aim and your intention is for right and to do the right thing, you will make it. And when you do, don't run from us. Don't be embarrassed by us. Come back and help us. You are the generation that has the power to do away with this kind of thinking. You are the generation that can change this. You can show us that all of our stories and all of our lives matter. When I made my first $1 million, I'll tell you what I did. I went back and I set up shop right in the middle of our community, in the hood. I will never forget when President Obama was running for re-election in 2012 and he came to the studio. And to see all of those little black faces lining the streets, holding their flags, waving at the presidential motorcade came driving through the ghetto. I saw hope in their eyes. It made me cry because I realized that some of them know that they can do it too. I recently bought Fort McPherson Army Base in Atlanta to build my new studio. And it's right in the middle of one of the lowest income areas in Atlanta. And I will hire many people from that neighborhood and train them on how to run their own companies. It gives me so much joy to know that an army base that was established and built just a few years after slavery is now owned by a Negro. I say that to say this to you, that our ancestors, they walked their path. Your grandparents, your mother, your father, they all walked their path. Now it's your turn. Return to where you come from when you made it. You have the foundation. Know your intention. Know that it's not going to be easy, but just keep yourself on track. Know the value of what is already down in your well. Know that you are special. Know that you carry it. You have the torch. It's already been bought and paid for. Now it's in your hands. Use it for good. Inspire somebody. Encourage somebody. Uplift somebody. And finally, return to where you got started. Build with us. Teach us. Show us what you've learned. Help us to see that we can do it too. Then help somebody else to know that they are just as special as you are.